Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, October the 2nd, 2023. Ms. Hilbrick, will you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilwoman Solis?
Here.
Councilman Crocker?
Here.
Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Young?
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
And Mayor Bauknight.
Here. Everyone will please rise for the pledges followed by a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Well, good evening, Ms. Lacy. Do you have any announcements and/or reminders tonight?
Yes, sir, we do
Mr.
have an
Rainier.
announcement. Hey,
Yes, we have Mrs. Lacy and Mr. Rainier helping us
That's
out
all
tonight,
right.
and Mr. Garza
I get
is,
lost at the corner over here sometimes.
yeah.
First announcement, first of all, the most important one, I think, is that we handed out the book of the CIP, the 24 and the 25, 26. So it's there. It's also on the city's website. It's posted already. So take a look at it and we can talk about it more later. Other announcement, Mayor, is that the city non-emergency offices will be closed on Monday, October the 9th, in observance of the Indigenous People Day, i.e. Columbus Day. Go figure. Office will be open on Tuesday, October the 10th. National Night Out Block Party will be held tomorrow evening, Tuesday, October the 3rd, around the city. We encourage city residents to attend the block party in your neighborhood to get to know your neighbors. Victoria Police Department will be recognizing the National Coffee with a Cop Day on Wednesday, October the 4th, from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. in the City Hall courtyard. Please join us for delicious pastries, including donuts. It's not part of it, but anyway. Sponsored by Las Concha and a fresh cup of coffee from Beans Up. The fire department will be holding its Super Mario themed fire prevention show for the youth on October the 12th and the 13th at 1 p.m. at the VISD Fine Arts Center. Environmental Service and the Keep Victoria Beautiful will be hosting the phase 2 of the Queen City Neighborhood Cleanup on Saturday, October 21st, from 9 to 11 a.m. All residents can request assistance by calling Environmental Services at 361-485-3230. Volunteers can sign up at the Keep Victoria Beautiful website, victoriatx.gov/KVB. Registration is now open for the 23 Christmas, I went too fast, hold on a second, Parade of Lights. To sign up for the parade or register for the food or merchant vendor, visit victoriatx.gov/registration. Space is limited and the deadline to register is November the 1st. Communications. The City of Victoria Communication Public Office Affairs is accepting applications for its 24 Citizens Academy. Residents are encouraged to apply as soon as possible at victoriatx.gov/Citizens Academy. Deadline to apply November the 1st. And lastly, the City of Victoria Municipal Court will be hosting the Community Resource Fair in honor of the Community Municipal Court Week on Wednesday, November the 8th. Organizations interested in attending the Resource Fair can sign up at victoriatx.gov/resource fair. That's all we have. No employee recognition except me.
Always. All right, with that, we have some proclamations. Ms. Hilbrick, will you help us out with the proclamation, followed by the KVB award?
Yes, sir. Whereas the City of Victoria is proud to honor the 4-H Youth Development Program of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for 115 years of providing excellence-based education to youngsters throughout the Lone Star State. Whereas the admirable program, which seeks to provide a learning experience for the whole child, including head, heart, hands, and health, helps young Texans to acquire knowledge, develop life skills, and form attitudes to enable them to become self-directed, productive, and contributing members of our society. And whereas it's more than 550,000 urban, suburban, and rural youth participants ranging in age from 8 to 19 hail from diverse ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds and truly represent a cross-section of the state. And whereas the program undoubtedly could not have achieved the success it has today were it not for the service of more than 22,000 volunteers that have given generously of their time, talents, and energies and resources to the youth of Texas. And whereas throughout its proud history, the 4-H program has developed positive role models for countless Texans, and through its innovative and inspiring programs continues to build character and to instill the values that have made our state strong and great. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Bauknight, Mayor of the City of Victoria, Texas, do officially declare October 1st through 7th, 2023 to be National 4-H Week in Victoria, Texas, and commend the 4-H Youth Development Program, the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Services, and the many men and women who have made the program a success.
Well, good evening. My name is Paige Melton for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, the 4-H Youth Development Program. I am the 4-H Extension Agent here in Victoria County. I've been here for over 8 years. And so we're so excited about National 4-H Week. This is our week that we basically say thank you and bring awareness to 4-H to all of our donors, our sponsors, our community members, you guys. Those of you that are familiar with 4-H program, we thank you for being our advocates and spreading the word about 4-H. So I do have our senior ambassadors here. There's a few that are missing due to sports. So I would like to introduce them. They are our face of the 4-H program. They go out and promote the 4-H program. They lead our 4-H program. They're the voice of the 4-H program. So I want to introduce the guys that I have here, and then they have a couple words to say. So if y'all stand up, I'll introduce you real quick. It's going to be kind of hard, but we'll start in the back left with Lainey Aiken, Noah Rung, Levi Fierbacher, Peyton Hembry, Abby Nunez, Emery Fierbacher, Thomas Rung, Leighton DePine, Cody Nunez, and Trapper Fierbacher. So 4 of y'all are going to stand up and give a little interpretation of our program and our numbers and our goals for this year.
Good afternoon. More than 6 million young people across the country will be celebrating National 4-H Week. It is an annual celebration of 4-H held the first full week of October. This is a week that our youth showcase the great things that 4-H offers young people and highlights the incredible 4-H youth in our community who work each day to make a positive impact on the community.
National 4-H Week is also a week that we recognize our volunteers, sponsors, donors, and supporters. We know our program would not function without the time, dedication, and passion of these hard-working individuals in our community.
The Victoria County 4-H program has 15 different community and project clubs across the county for youth to be a part of. Some of the major projects in youth participate in our shooting sports, livestock, food nutrition, outdoor education, and leadership.
Last year, we had over 500 active 4-H members and hundreds of volunteers. Our goal as ambassadors is to continue to increase our membership even more for the new 4-H year and continue to spread the word about 4-H and all it has to offer.
So again, thank y'all for having us and declaring this week as National 4-H Week. We have a little thank you with some goodies we hope y'all enjoy throughout the week. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Ms. Melton. Thank y'all for the goodies. Do appreciate that. All right, let's go into the KVB Beautification Award. Ms. Christy Euchre and Ms. Bird.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Before we give our Beautification Award, I want to highlight what Mr. Reyna said about our October 21st neighborhood cleanup. It's coming up, and it's always a great deal of fun, and we have a lot of food. We start with donuts, and we end with hot dogs. I mean, you can't beat that. And good community work, resource fair, and helping out the residents. So I will introduce again Meredith Bird, our chair for this committee and chair for Keep Victoria Beautiful.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Always nice to be here. So actually, before I get started, I'd like to extend a big thank you to everyone who came out last month and helped with our fall sweep. It was a huge success. We got a lot of work done around the city in a little bit of time. It's amazing how fast that morning goes and how much trash gets picked up and how big of an impact is made on our community in just a couple of short hours. So on behalf of KVB, I'd like to extend a thanks to the community for everybody who came out and supported us that day. But tonight we are here to award the October Business Beautification Award to a business that has been in existence for more than 100 years and located at the corner of Sam Houston and Mockingbird since 1995, so nearly 30 years. Our October award winner is the Sam Houston branch of Trust Texas Bank, and they're located on a very visible and busy corner right there where Mockingbird and Sam Houston meet up, right there near the post office and Howell Middle School, all in that area. And it's a big piece of property. It's a busy thoroughfare on both sides. And they have stuck with it even through this exceptional drought that we've been experiencing through the summer. Relentless heat, zero rain. From what I understand, they've been out actually by hand watering the plants, making sure that things look nice, which is a great way to keep landscaping looking nice without wasting water, rather than a sprinkler that's going to lose a lot to evaporation. As we all know in conservation, hand watering is a great way to do it responsibly. Anyway, that being said, they have looked wonderful in spite of everything that the weather's been throwing our way. So tonight, I'd like to present this award to the Sam Houston branch of Trust Texas Bank.
Well, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members, my name is Larry Lahudney. This is Johanna Garza. She's our branch manager. We're grateful to the city and to the Beautification Award. We do take pride in keeping our place looking good. I try to make a scan every morning to make sure there's no trash on the property that blows in or whatnot. But yes, the drought threw us some curves, like she said, but we're constantly looking, and we're thankful to be able to serve our community. So thank y'all.
Thank you for taking the pride. Appreciate it. I had just one more recognition. We have two county commissioners in the audience tonight. I want to thank them for being here. We got Commissioner Gary Burns and Commissioner Kenneth Sexton, so thank you for being here tonight. Going to items from council. Anybody have anything? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Solis.
Okay, I have a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Deputy Chief Shannon Martin and all his staff for the beautiful ceremony that they did Friday in honor of my son, Gabriel Solis. Thank you, guys. It was a great honor, and I was very humble. And second is, I want to say special thanks to all the staff, especially April and Sandra. They did an awesome job. We hosted a TML conference Friday night here. We had approximately 140 guests, and they did an awesome job. We are very proud of the way they showed the city off, and I want to thank them publicly. Thank you so much.
And also thank you, Ms. Solis. You just finished, that was your last meeting as the Region 11 TML president. And that's a great deal, and you represented the city of Victoria very well in the region, so thank you for serving on that. Yes, ma'am.
So school is back in session, and traffic is continuing to be a problem, especially at East High School. At least that's where I've heard about it from. And I'd like to ask for our police department, not now, but our police department to maybe give us a report or see what they can do. The reports I'm getting are, once again, there's problems in the Carriage Point subdivision. There's problems with people parking even in the, not even parking, just stopping in the middle of the street. Kids running across the street from the high school to that subdivision, not even necessarily in the crosswalk. Additionally, during drop-off in the morning, apparently some cars are stopping just on Mockingbird. Kids are getting out of their cars while they're paused and running across through traffic. It's just not a good situation, and the school district has got a plan for cars to be able to pull in, drop their kids off appropriately, pick them back up appropriately, and this is just really something that somebody has to do something, or we're going to have an accident of some sort. I did mention to the police chief, and I don't remember the details, but I remember years ago they made a prohibition about left turns during school drop-off and pickup. I don't know if anybody remembers the details.
We have a sign up that's posted.
I don't think it's there anymore.
It's there, it just needs to be updated for the school's new times, which I was gonna
Okay.
tack on in the end here, I'm sorry to butt in,
Okay,
but-
no, I appreciate that because we've had some changes in the police department and, some institutional knowledge is helpful. But I just like to call on all the parents to please try and be much more responsible and patient with dropping off your kids and do it appropriately. And certainly, let's try and stop having kids running across Mockingbird, whether there's a traffic light or not.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, that sign, Mr. Gill, just needs to be, they gotta change their times for high schools this year, so we just need to update it. Are there any other items from council? No? Okay. With that, we'll close that, and we have one speaker tonight in citizens communication. We have Ms. Loria Rose speaking on behalf of Judge Zeller. And if you will, limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I'm Loria Rose, and I work as the Projects and Planning Assistant for the Victoria County Judge's Office. And while Judge Zeller can't be here today due to his daughter's 11th birthday, he asked me to share a few things on his behalf. On behalf of Judge Zeller and the Victoria County Commissioners Court, I want to express Commissioners Court's continued support for a co-sponsorship plan for the Victoria Regional Airport. Commissioners Court believes that this strategic collaboration can lead to lasting economic growth, enhance Victoria's connectivity with the rest of the nation, and reinforce our region's position as a destination for business and tourism. Commissioners Court is pleased that this concept has been endorsed by the Victoria Economic Development Corporation, the Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and many business leaders and residents throughout our community who want to see economic development prioritized through this co-sponsorship. After months of careful consideration, due diligence, and hard work by county and city leaders and many others, the city and county have arrived at an agreement that achieves the goal of a 50-50 airport co-sponsorship structure with an independent airport board. The resolution that allows us all to move forward and start implementing the product of this good work and planning was approved by Commissioners Court on August 21st. After Commissioners Court approved the final version of the airport co-sponsorship plan in August, which I believe was the 10th version, there has been some talk about going back to a prior version of the plan that does not divide costs 50-50 and has not been agreed to by both the county and the city. When something goes without saying, you should always say it. So any proposal that does not have real 50-50 cost sharing, along with a true 50-50 management structure, isn't really much of a 50-50 partnership or co-sponsorship at all. Working through multiple versions of the co-sponsorship plan over months with you and community leaders had created a final plan which achieves the co-sponsorship goals, and the time has come to move forward from making plans to taking action. The county has shown its commitment and financial support of the airport operations for many years and building up a vibrant regional airport here in Victoria. And the county welcomes those who also want to partner in the airport's success. I truly appreciate your time and consideration this afternoon and ask that you remember all the time and the thought that people have put in over months of planning and negotiations that created a final plan with a true 50-50 co-sponsorship to move our local airport forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. All right, with that, we'll close citizens' communication and go into items with a public hearing. Item C1.
Item C1 is an ordinance approving the removal of the juvenile curfew from City Ordinance Section 15-30 through 15-34 to align with state law.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chief Young asked me to get up here and just say a few words about this ordinance amendment. House Bill 1819 passed this previous summer during the 88th regular legislative session. That bill did prohibit cities from enforcing juvenile curfews in their ordinances. And it became effective on September 1st. So as a result of that, we are now recommending that we remove our current juvenile curfew language from our ordinance to align with state law. And so, as you can see, this removal of that language just simply takes out sections 15-30 through 15-34 of our current ordinance.
Ms. Lacy, for the benefit of those watching, does this mean we no longer have a juvenile curfew in Victoria?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. At this time, I will open up a public hearing on item C1. Anybody wishing to speak for or against or on this item, please step forward to the microphone. Seeing no one rise up to speak, we will close the public hearing and entertain any motions.
I move we adopt C1.
Second?
Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve item C1. All those, is there any further discussion?
No.
All those
Clear
in-
my throat.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C2.
Item C2 is a public hearing on the City of Victoria's application to the Texas General Land Office for an allocation from the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Regional Mitigation Program.
Good evening, Ms. Connolly.
Mayor and Council. This item this evening does not require any action. The point of it is to make clear what projects will be included in our application for the CDBG MIT Regional Mitigation allocation that we're getting of $19.5 million. And none of these projects are new to the city. These are all things that we've been working on and working toward for years, frankly. But the point being, we want to be very clear about which projects are being included, how much money is being spent on each one, and how they are accomplishing hazard mitigation in our application, and ask the public for comment at the point that we have all of this posted, which we don't yet, but I'll get to that in a second. So the first one that we have is the public safety headquarters, just the 911 dispatch center is one of the 3 projects that will be included in the application. And so we just wanted to kind of make clear that there are vulnerabilities there. That includes the fact that it's an old building. It wasn't originally built to house 911 communications. It's vulnerable because it's close to the railroad track, potentially if there were derailment or hazmat or an explosion. The TCOs who work inside the building have to evacuate during hazardous weather because the building's not built to withstand hurricane winds, which when that happens, that reduces staffing, that reduces the potential for automation. So the improvements are to fix all of that, protected location. They're going to be right there with the command staff, which they're not right now. There's going to be a lot of modern workplace amenities, things that a lot of people take for granted that you just don't get in a 40-year-old building. And then upgraded technology, of course, which that's really kind of the driving force there, and the enhanced regional interoperability capacity. And that one right now is estimated at $4.1 million. The next project for $6 million, the SCADA water and wastewater. Again, vulnerabilities there. It's a very old system. Replacement parts, patches, things like that. The repairs are difficult and time consuming. Communication and monitoring loss could result in health hazards. There's also, and this is kind of highlighted in some things that happened in the past, the lack of remote access for immediate response to critical conditions, and this is especially true during hazardous weather. So the improvements include, we're going to put in new radio backbone throughout the whole system, put in new servers, and it will be secure against cyber attack. We'll have a lot of resilient safeguards to protect the water supply. The notification and response capability is going to come with remote capability, and it will result in overall improved performance and outcome for all of our water processes, not just water, but wastewater as well. And then finally, we have the Lone Tree drainage improvements. This area has been flood prone for many years. It puts at risk homes, an elementary school, and quite frankly, a fire station because there's no current outfall system. There's standing water over there during flood events, I know, because I used to live over there, that pose health risks. So what will happen, and you can sort of see in the background here, there's going to be a really huge drainage ditch pulled across the back of the neighborhood there and then into Lone Tree Creek. And so that'll reduce flood elevation levels and standing water. And then we're also including improvement of streets in that area. And so the public comment period will open on October 26th. It will close November 28th. And what we're going to do is we're going to post a substantially complete application, but I'm also going to include an executive summary, maps, and LMI benefit data in before you even get into, because you'll be able to see the whole substantially complete application, but there'll be some summary there. And then also with instructions of links to where to send the comment, which is going to be me. And we'll take them anytime. You don't necessarily have to wait until the public comment period opens, but that is when we need to probably promote to the public that we want to hear if you have a comment on it, because that goes with our application. And like I said, this doesn't have any action, but if you have any questions, I'll answer.
Doesn't have any action. We don't need to open a public hearing right now?
We do need to open a public hearing.
Okay.
There's nothing to approve. There's no, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Conley. Do you have any questions for her? No? Okay. Well, then at this time, we'll open a public hearing for item C2. Anybody wishing to speak about C2, please step forward to the microphone. Seeing no one rise up, we will close the public hearing on item C2. And we will go to consent agenda.
Staff would like to pull one item from the consent agenda, item D. I'm sorry, which one is it? D? Oh, I'm sorry, it's in the next, it's in the E section. Or you need the VSTDC?
Yes, we were going to
Okay.
pull that in the next
So
section.
I'm sorry, it's not in this section, but I will tell you now that they're going to pull item D, or E3 rather, I'm sorry. So the consent agenda, item D1 is the adoption of minutes for a regular meeting held on September 19th, 2023. Item D2 is approval of an amendment to section 14, chapter 14, section 14-52 ordinance to waive itinerant vendor permitting requirements within the entertainment district. This item is on second and third reading. Item D3 is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Victoria and Siddons Martin Emergency Group for the refurbishment of a 2019 Pierce Arrow pumper in the amount of $535,000. Item D4 is a resolution approving the annual purchase of uniforms for the Victoria Fire Department from Galls Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $60,000. Item D5 is a resolution appointing a member to the Board of Health. Item D6 is a resolution approving the purchase of 2023 International CV 515 diesel Type 1 Fraser-built ambulance from Southwest International Trucks Incorporated of Dallas, Texas, and accompanying Stryker power load system in the amount of $346,572.76. Item D7 is a resolution approving the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, or the STEP comprehensive grant from the Texas Department of Transportation in the amount of $32,489.14, which requires financial participation from the city in the amount of $6,517.64. And item D8 is a resolution approving the second amendment to the containerized commercial solid waste contract with Waste Management of Texas Incorporated.
I'll move for approval of consent items 1 through 8 as read.
A second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Item E1.
And before we jump into E1, I would reiterate, staff will be pulling item E3 and will be brought back at the next meeting in October. But item E1 is to appoint or reappoint members to the Food Establishment Appeals Board.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight will appoint members to the Food Establishment Appeals Board. The purpose of that board is to hear appeals from denials, suspension, or revocation of a food establishment permit. Board members serve 2-year terms, and there is no term limits. The board is very specific. It's composed of 5 members. One has to be an epidemiologist currently licensed under the laws of the state of Texas. 1 member shall be someone that's intrinsically engaged in the food service industry, i.e. like a establishment owner or manager. 1 member has to be a consumer, has no financial interest in a food establishment, and 1 member shall be actively involved in building trade, and the last one has to be a licensed attorney. So currently, the positions are Emmanuel Opata, Ricky Mumford, Louis Knight, Roland Rodriguez, and Jeff Cano in their respective fields. And all current members do wish to be reappointed, but this year we do have 1 additional application for the consumer position that was received from Suzette Henry. So the ballots were placed on the dais before the meeting. They do include your name. Because you cannot vote by secret ballot, and they're available for review in my office if anyone so chooses. If you'll circle the one that you want to vote for, and I'll be glad to come around and get them. That was a 4-3 vote with Mr. Knight's name to be listed in the resolution under the position of consumer.
I need to make a motion.
I move we adopt this item, inserting Mr. Knight's name.
I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Thank you to both applicants for applying. Appreciate the interest and the volunteerism to participate in the community. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. E2.
Item E2 is a resolution to nominate a candidate or candidates to serve on the Victoria Central Appraisal District Board of Directors.
Evening again. The resolution before you tonight is going to just nominate someone to serve on the Appraisal District Board of Directors. Currently, that position is held by Ms. Scott. So those are a list of the roles that in the property tax system that the Board of Director plays. One of the biggest ones that we've seen this past year are hiring an appraiser, chief appraiser, as well as setting that budget and providing the overview. It's a list of the dates, upcoming dates that we have to meet in order to put someone on the board. So the first step was already met. We did receive our voting entitlement, and we, by letter that was addressed to the mayor and Mr. Garza. And then we are now, by the 15th, we have to nominate someone. We can actually nominate up to 5 candidates, and then we'll receive the ballots. This item will come back to you again. Before December 15th, we have to cast the vote by resolution, and then the candidates will be declared before the 31st. So our voting entitlement this year is 872 votes, and there's a list of the other districts that get to vote for members. And you can see that it's the way it's divided, 872 votes. If the city divides our votes among many candidates, it could be that our nominees do not end up on the board at all. So as I just explained, you can pick one candidate, or you can distribute the votes among many candidates. Historically, the city of Victoria has cast all of its votes for one city council member to serve on the board. And I spoke with Ms. Scott this morning, and she is willing to serve again if you also wish to appoint her.
If someone else wants the pleasure, that's all right.
That makes my choice very easy. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Scott. You've done a great job. And I'll mention that she is the president of that board right now.
chair. That's
right.
Chair.
But no, we have made great strides, and I'm really proud of the progress that we've made. And we do have the results of the audit. We haven't met yet to discuss them, but we have accomplished a lot this year, so I'm very proud of that.
Wonderful.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Item E2 with Ms.
Nominate
Scott.
Ms. Scott. I'll second. Appraise the board.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to nominate Ms. Scott to the Victoria Central Appraisal District Board. Is there any further discussion?
For your continued service.
Yep.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E4.
Item E4 is a resolution approving variances to Section 10-115 and 13-27 of the City Code to allow for replacement of an existing septic system for 109 Leisure Lane.
What this is about, I don't have a presentation, but the property is located at the end of Ruby Street, which is off of Leisure Lane by about 300 feet. The elevation difference is about 10 feet. That's how much higher Leisure Lane is. And his property is it's a small house, it's currently on a septic system. And the owner's representative wanted to just request from council to stay on the septic system as it currently exists, and in the future, if they need to upgrade, that they be allowed to upgrade to a septic system. We're recommending approval of that. However, should they plat the property or a sewer line be extended where it's adjacent to their property, they would need to tie onto sewer.
So if they subdivide.
Right, if they subdivide, they have to extend the sewer, and it'd be a force main situation.
How big a lot are we talking about?
It's about probably a half an acre. The house is probably a 2, maybe a 3-bedroom house. It's a very small house. And it's been, I'd say the house was built in the 60s. It's an older home. It's been on septic for many, many, many years.
I move we adopt E4.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on item E4? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. E5.
Item E5 is a resolution approving, is approving a resolution to forward the draft airport joint action agreement to the FAA for their review and comment.
All right, I have a presentation for y'all. All right, there we go. So I'm going to give just a little bit of history. I know that we all have gone through this a number of times, and I think everybody's up to speed, but I want to make sure that anybody's watching, because this does have a lot of great interest in the community, that we go through it one more time. So back in February of 2022, the group of 5, we'll call it, these 5 entities shown on here, hired Steve Baldwin and Associates, a nationally recognized consultant, to study the airport and the way it's governed currently. We all recognized that it's a valuable economic asset for the community, and we're looking for some way to take it forward going into the future so it could just be even a bigger economic driver for our community. And this is Mr. Farrell's graphics, if you'll notice the airplane.
I was going to say, yeah, that was pretty swift.
I see the little
Yeah.
plus sign.
So back in January, after the report that they presented to us, they had recommended a governance structure. First thing they recommended was that an independent airport commission with sponsor oversight actually run the airport. That was one of the recommendations. They're probably the major one. And then they also recommended that the city and the county consider joining into a joint sponsorship agreement. So at that time, we passed and the county passed a resolution saying, yes, we'll go look at a joint sponsorship agreement and see how we can move forward together with it. So we've formed this Airport Governance Advisory Committee. I appointed 3 members to it, and the county appointed 3 members to it, and they met. And initially, it was anticipated it was going to take 3 to 4 months to get to a resolution from January. It ended up going for over 6 months. At that time, they still hadn't come to an agreement by the end of June. I'd had conversations at that time and said we weren't going to go past July. I think we even stated that up here. So Mr. Crocker, Mr. Lofgren, and myself sat down with 2 county commissioners, came up with what we thought was the final agreement jointly between the city and county on version 7. And that's what we had planned to bring to city council and to county commissioners at that time in August. Subsequent to that, the county unilaterally changed that version 7 3 times and came up with version 10, which is what they passed and sent to us. But that was not a joint work product. That was just on their own and their changes. So in version 10, it drastically changed what was originally presented to the city council for like the airport operating budget. We had had a presentation where we went through the past budgets and fiscal health of the airport, if y'all recall that. We were about $100,000 in the black, is what we were presented, and that's the kind of version 7 we were going into that agreement. We were under the impression at that time also that it was operated like a true enterprise fund, much like we do our wastewater and water funds, right, where everything's accounted for in that airport. But the airport budget in that version 10, once we paused and said, let's go take a look at it, right? And we asked a bunch of questions just to do due diligence on the whole airport operation. Ends up, instead of being $100,000 in the black, they're about $1.2 million in the red each year. So with that, Mr. Rainey has helped us look over this agreement, which would be a 5-year agreement in version 10. And what's recommended by the FAA is stick with 5 years before anybody can back away from it. So the cost we had to know when we all got together last time, right? That was a big thing. What's this mean financially for Victoria, the city of Victoria in particular? And what extra cost are we putting on our taxpayers? So as we go through this, estimated operating losses per year, this is 1/2 of what the operating losses would be, are a little over $600,000, and then you can see the inflation rates on the top right there as we go through, plus the addition of another staff position at the airport that they sent us that they were planning to add for marketing and communications. So you can see that just the escalation, it's $3.5 million over a 5-year total in operating losses if it's operated like it is right now. Hopefully a commission would change that and make some changes, but with all the information we have right now and the budget for 2025, just kind of extrapolate what those operating losses are. Capital improvements. We'd ask them if you could send us a capital improvement plan, and they did so, and these are all the projects. We'd seen them before, right? But some of it is, desperate need as far as refurbishing hangars, or even putting a new hangar out there. Those are the big ticket items. That accounts for 9 of the $11.3 million. But if y'all flown out of there, y'all know that the parking lots need reconstruction. They need some additional lighting. There's some stuff in the terminal building that needs to be done. Just deferred maintenance items that, altogether start adding up. But that comes to that 11.3, and instead of trying to figure out what's going to be in which year, just took an average across it and divided it by 2. So it's about $1.1 million of capital improvements per year for $5.6 million that the city would be responsible for that half. Now, of course, all those capital improvements projects, remember, would have to come before council to be voted on independently, as with the budget each year for the airport under the agreement. Then we also have the grant match. We've talked about the grant match before, and that's the taxiways and runways, the terminal building, and that comes to, in the fiscal years under which this would be applicable, nothing in 26, or Yeah, nothing in 26, but there's 27 you can see, which is 550. I think it's just a typo there for 26. There's nothing in 26, just 25 and 27, but it's still $1.9 million in known grant matchings. And those grants haven't, you know, the terminal building one certainly hasn't been approved yet for a grant from the FAA, but county has submitted upon it, and it's in the 5-year CIP window for that grants. So comes up to $11.124,350,000. And so these hopefully answer all your financial questions that we had. And whether we vote to approve version 10 or not, you know, I think it's important to note that the consultant still recommends the airport be managed by a commission and not just as a department. I think that was one of the things that stuck out to me when going back and looking at that report and talking with the consultant. Consultant did reach out and said he is available to do an independent assessment of the airport's finances and help develop any type of plan to bring the airport back into the black. I think this should be done regardless of whether or not we pass this as well. So open it up for y'all if y'all have any questions on the presentation or discuss where we are on the airport governance. If anybody wants to make a motion.
First, let's talk. How is it the CIP improvement, the capital improvements affect our CIPs that we have right now? Are we going to have to put something aside?
Yes. We would have to decide, you know, if we're looking at that list, right? It depends on if the airport came to us with, here's what we would like to do this year, or if they spread it out over a 5-year window, we would have to decide, can we shoehorn it in? You know, like I could look at terminal parking reconstruction lot A of $200,000. Can we find savings on a project of $100,000 to take care of our half? But when you're looking at a fuel farm relocation or a hangar reconstruction or a whole new hangar, those are different propositions, right? That likely to me would mean we either change the way that we're planning to structure debt in the future, or we change projects that we have already lined up in the 5-year window and shuffle things around. That's how my answer would be.
Are grants available for some of these projects?
I do not know the full, well, I don't see anything in there that jumps out at me, and you would have to ask Mr. Lorena, but I would imagine it would be on the grant list if it was a grant available for it that we know of right now. Most of that's FAA grants on that grant list, but I mean, you could possibly find another grant somewhere. But a lot of it's just repairs, if you look at it.
Explain the logistics again, that there would be a commission controlling the airport, and yet you're saying that if they wanted to do a capital improvement, it would come to us for approval?
Yes.
Which means that it would also go to the county for approval.
Yes.
So either one of us, if we refused it, would hamstring the whole point of this joint commission anyway. But that is a possibility that could occur on each capital improvement
It is,
project.
and it also does not prevent one entity or the other from saying, we'll just do the whole thing. Even though it's a 50-50, but could say, we're gonna do the whole thing. Like, if we had chosen to spend our ARPA funding on something at the airport under this agreement, we could have done that. Or I'm guessing that there's some CDBG MIT money that could have shoehorned into something at the airport as well if we chose to say, okay, well, here we have this funding, we're gonna apply it to the airport.
But that, if we were to do that, that would not allow us to say, on a 50-50 deal, we get credit for it. In other words, if we say, no, we want to do that, does that entitle us to tell the county we've already paid our part of something else? I'm taking it that it wouldn't necessarily.
Mr. Crocker and I have talked about this a lot on how this works, and I think what we came to the conclusion of reading the agreement and talking with the consultants, each project potentially has the opportunity to structure it however you want. And certainly if we had decided we were going in debt for it and we had a 10-year debt on it, and in year 4 or 5 of this, we back out of it, you know, we would have structured it so that the debt, we've talked about this in this meeting, that the debt would move with that project. It doesn't still put you on the hook for it. It would have to go with the asset and not with the entity.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. You know, my comments would be, you know, I think this information is very helpful, and thanks for those that worked on this to put this together, because I think this answered some of the questions we had, particularly coming out of the changes that we saw in version 8, 9, and 10, which were drastic changes at the end of the day, that were subtle changes, that basically changed administrative costs and then defined in there what those administrative costs to include the fire department and those sort of things. Well, that's what led to these other questions, because essentially, at the end of the day, what happened is that the county shifted responsibility for payment of things it had been covering in the past 100% to this new commission, which in effect puts half of it upon the city. And so at the end of the day, that's 100% what those changes did, was basically take that from a county expense to the commission expense, which makes the city responsible for half of it, which obviously, looking at these numbers, brings up some big concerns. Number one, I have concerns for the city. And number two, I know others share this, that I have concerns for the viability of that commission if they, right off the bat, are stuck with all of these expenses that the county has paid 100% of for however long, and all of a sudden they have to come up with, okay, you guys have to do this. I don't think that commission is gonna have a fair chance to succeed, and I think you're just gonna see it go away in 5 years if they're saddled with this type of financial responsibility. So that concerns me, and then also from the city's perspective, I mean, you know, we're looking at issues in terms of paying our police department, in terms of paying our firefighters. I mean, you know, this money's got to come out of somewhere. And as Ms. Solis pointed out, you know, this could affect our CIP. You know, I think what's happened is my perspective of how this started was the city was approached with, hey, can you help us with some grants? Can you help us with grant matching? And then that kind of evolved into this whole discussion and this whole negotiation that has gone well beyond that. And I was all about, sure, let's help with grant matching, because I think improving the airport is great for the city and great for the region. But this has gone well beyond that, and now we're into, you know, some dollars that are well above what it was originally pitched, and certainly well above what we thought we had agreed to in version 7, that then morphed into with those changes that we received in 8, 9, and 10 that lead to these numbers we're talking about. So, you know, I'm behind. I would be in favor of the city supporting the airport and helping the county with the airport on matches, but getting into these type of numbers to basically pay for things that the county's been responsible for all these years, and now they want us to be on the hook for half, I struggle with that. And I also struggle with saddling that commission with these numbers, I think is gonna lead to its failure.
I agree with him 150%. And not only this new version 10, it makes the airport commission have to go and ask for money from the city and the county. Version 7, they actually made money, and this just gives money to the county. It puts money in the county's pocket. This is a win for the county, it's a lose for the airport commission, and it's a lose for the city. Yes, if it passed, it would be great for the airport, but this isn't, the county is responsible for the airport. I had suggested that we go back and look back at version 7, and we exclude some of the things that the county's already paying for.
But no, they want a 50-50 thing, so they can, if you do that, they just put money in their pocket, from the city into their pocket. This is not viable, in my opinion.
Well, I agree, Mr. Crocker. I think you said it very eloquently. We've had concerns, and I do want to appreciate and thank everybody for their time and efforts to, one, ask questions, and for those that came up and found answers to those questions regarding the airport, the financial situation. I'm glad that we had patience up here to get all the information to make a smart decision for the taxpayers and for the airport. It saddens me. I want it to be a viable economic driver, but was a little bit uncomfortable even at 7 with some unanswered questions, and as things have come along, I'm a lot more uncomfortable. Doesn't mean I don't wish the airport to be successful. I just don't see it being successful in this manner from the city's standpoint.
And I'll reiterate at least my point that towards that success, I'm willing to discuss or open to discuss and want to discuss how the city can help move that forward. I just don't see that it's viable for the city under this version that's been approved to participate in that, to that extent and to that degree. I think there's probably some other ways that we can help in terms of matching grants and doing that sort of thing that I would be all in favor of. But committing to, at this level, to this number for historical county expenses, I think is just beyond what I think is good for the city.
This would also put a burden on the future council members or councils for the city to come up with that. I mean, we're talking about 26 to 28, 29 fiscal years. That's pretty far out, and they'd be forced to raise the tax rate on the citizens.
Possibly.
Of the estimated operating loss, what percentage or how much of that was actually being paid by the county at one time? All of it, part of it?
All but about, in that number, $100,000.
So for each year, in fiscal year 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29, $100,000 of that estimated operating loss was being paid by the county.
No, they would have made $100,000 though.
The difference was paid by the county between 100,000 and the numbers you see here. The county was picking up.
The airport right now, and the way it's structured financially, shows $100,000 profit.
Okay.
Approximately, just use round numbers. But when you take some of the administrative costs, like they have almost 17% that they show in the budget, it's administrative cost for the county to do human resources for the airport commission employees, and you took the R for the firefighting into there. Those are the major drivers for the cost difference.
So it's not like half of that then? Like 300,000 for each year
No.
or something like that?
No, it comes out to, their operating loss that they showed in their budget, half of it, well, they show right now over $1 million.
No, what I'm trying to get at is.
I'm sorry.
So let me see if I can jump in and help you. The numbers you're seeing out there, that's the city's responsibility.
It's half.
That's already accounted for. So let's go back, just for giggles, let's go back to 2025. That 622K is made up of a pro forma budget that did for 2025, I believe the judge did. It came out to be $1 million and some change. Well, that's $525,000 K. That also includes items that's not in his budget, which is sales taxes, has a marketing campaign with the airport, so we took half of that. And then in 26, there is a comment in one of those documents that was sent to everybody that Lonnie wants to have a marketing campaign manager also included. So that number was provided by the mayor, and I believe our half was about $38,000. And to add on top of that, you got your inflationary rate. You have to assume something. It doesn't say, and I did an incline 5433. If it goes sooner, perfect. But those are the numbers that represents the city's share already. It's not the gross. So if you want to gross it up, just multiply it by 2.
By 2, okay. I see that. Well, if we don't vote for this, and the county already did, what is going to happen? We're not going to go back to the table, or are we going to go back to the table? What are we going to do?
Well, I mean, I think that, as Mr. Crocker said, I think the door's always open here at the city to try and find some way to help with the airport. I mean, because if you look at this 5-year total, right, this is half. So that really means the county and airport, right, are at $22 million that they're staring at over the next 5 years. If you're going to accomplish everything on this capital improvements plan and the grants and cover those operating losses, right? It's $22 million. It's such a big component, I think, of our economic development of the region and Victoria that it's very important, and that otherwise we wouldn't have gotten this far with it. But I think the door's open to try and figure out something. I don't know what the answer is right now. I've been racking my brain since I got these numbers to try and figure out what's the next step. But with version 10, I mean, this is just a really big number to lump onto the taxpayers in the city of Victoria, which have already paid their county taxes, right? We've talked about that before. But I think it's still a benefit to try and find some way to help at the airport. And I don't know what that help is right now.
So the concept is not dead if we do not agree on this.
Right, I don't think it is, not from my standpoint.
I hope it's not, because the airport is very valuable to the city of Victoria and its economy.
Because what's in front of us is a resolution to forward that version 10 to the FAA to get their review and comment, okay, which we don't know what it would be. So if we don't approve this, it just means that we don't agree with forwarding version 10, but it's not the end of the road, at least as far as I'm concerned.
And like I said, the consultant has, said that they're willing to, for some type of payment, to look at the finances and try and help develop for the county a plan to get it back into the black when you look at it as a true enterprise fund. And I'm not saying the county hasn't been paying for all this stuff. They have. It's just the way they account for it's different than the way we typically account for it. And once we've done our due diligence and pulled everything in there, this is the true financial condition of the airport. But the county's been taking care of their responsibilities for these operating losses. It's just in different buckets than we would put it in.
And that wasn't made apparent until versions 8, 9, and 10 came along. And at that point, that's what led to the questions, which we found out, okay, there really was a loss versus what we've been hearing before on $100,000 in the black. So basically, it was almost to the finish line, and things changed because of changes that were made and put in there for the county to recover expenses that hadn't been disclosed to us previously that they had been covering. I mean, it's really what it amounts to.
And it does explain, why the parking lots haven't been repaved and things like that, because the county's putting a lot of money into just the operation that they haven't been making the airport commission account for.
Well, there's no airport commission now, right?
Oh,
You got,
what are they called there?
there's not one. It got sunsetted
Oh, okay.
at the end of
I
last year.
will say this, if you look at airports, and I started, this all came about, there's 25 airports in Texas that are bigger than our airport. Only 4 of them make money. Okay, airports are not money-making things. They're economic development things that stand over there that attract business. But most airports, when you look at their budgets, they never get charged for fire. The entity that runs that airport, if it's a county or a city, they absorb it. It never appears in their budget. But even when it doesn't appear in their budget, they make very little money, if they make money at all. So this idea of the airport being in the black would only happen is if the county would not charge these certain expenses to the airport, which it doesn't in its budget. And when we did version 7, that's what we assumed. In version 10 now, they want that, and
Kinda
I'm
kills the
sorry,
deal.
that's, just doesn't float.
Do we have a break? Do we know what that fire number is?
It was,
Between $500,000 and $600,000,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
yes,
That was one thing, then there was other things. Like, we don't charge 17% to enterprise funds for their HR. The county, we charge 10%. County charges 17%, so, and that's another expense that's not included in the airport's budget right now. So,
yeah, so ARF is 520,000 and change.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. 520,670.
I don't know how you want to proceed, if you want to just not vote on it, or vote on it, whatever.
Well, at this point, you did table this item at the
Yes.
previous meeting that was on the agenda. And as previously explained, this resolution is just an agreement to forward the agreement to the FAA. So if you vote it down at this point, the situation is still open. You can discuss versions in the future, whatever you decide to do, but to leave this version hanging out there with the county having already approved it would put the city in sort of an awkward position, because then we just have it sitting out there.
We haven't made a motion to approve or
Sure. But I
disapprove.
wanted to make a statement,
Yes, sir.
just a clarification. I know that Judge Zeller had Ms. Rose come up there, and I think one of the things that she said, or through him, said that we had arrived at an agreement, and I wrote down, saying that we had arrived at an agreement, and we have never arrived at an agreement in regards to
No.
this. And so I want a clarification from that standpoint, that
I wrote down the other comment there where you said, I created a final plan.
we're taking notes.
Yes. So, yeah, we'd gotten to something that was tenuous at version 7, I would say.
It still had questions and issues, yes.
Yes, but it's
8, 9,
tenuous.
and 10 definitely were
Yeah.
game changers.
I would
To
call
say
them
the
deal
least.
breakers.
Deal breakers is a better description, yes.
Okay. So we're in agreement that we're still open to trying to figure out something that helps this airport, because it is vitally important to our economic growth. But it sounds like right now consensus that we need to vote on to make sure. We're gonna need a motion to either approve or deny, but,
I'll make a motion that we deny the resolution that was presented to us to support version 10, which was approved by the county.
I second it.
okay, motion and a second. Have any further discussion? I want to thank everybody that so far has served. We've been dealing with this for, was it a year and a half now? A little over. Don't think it's over. I hope it's not over. I've been a major proponent of it. I appreciate y'all's patience with me as we continue trying to push to figure out how we can come to some agreement. So thank you, everyone up here. Thank you to Commissioners Court for also continuing to work on it. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of denying the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. You got that all? Okay. Great. And thank you, Mr. Farrell, for the graphics. Thank you, Ms. Lacy and Mr. Rania, for helping with that. We have no city manager reports. Ms. Lacy, do we have an executive session?
We do not.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
Great.